Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PK Clan Tournament 4 Grand Finals. This is game number 7 in the Best of 11 series between Garja and Boneng. And today, since of course this is game number 7, we're going to be playing on the Painted Desert, which is actually one of my favourite maps. And, well, the reason for that is because here we have Garja in the north of the map, or shall I say northeast of the map, playing as the French in the colour red, but not too far away from him, just slightly down to the south here, we have Boneng in the south of the map, as I said, or shall I say southwest, in the colour blue, taking the British. And as you can probably see, the distance between these two players' starting town centres is actually quite small. There is not a lot of distance there, and for me, that makes a really interesting game and a really interesting map. And another thing I like about this map is the abundance of herds it has. It makes it a good map for me. And, well, a map doesn't need lots of herds to be a good map. It only needs to have fair herds or evenly placed herds to be a good map. But nonetheless, I do think having lots of herds is a desirable feature of any map, at least for me. And as you can see, Boneng has one just above his town centre, one to the south, and even a deer herd over here. But Garja, I might actually say, is favoured in the huntable animal distribution and actually has lots of herds around his base. And off to a very nice start indeed, with of course plenty of cows, hashtag Azamk, hashtag cowhacks. That is a feature of this map. You can find herdable animals on the map there. But yes, he's laid down an early market, as you can see here, and is going for the hunting dogs upgrade. I believe he started with a coin crate, which he used to buy some wood out, of course, his market so that he could lay down a house. And here we see Garja going for the settler treasure, going to do some creeping, of course, getting away from these coyotes so they run back towards the treasure, coming in to finish this one off. And once this last coyote goes down, I imagine he'll escape from the two coyotes there that are attacking him and now turn around and get some free shots in and getting this settler treasure very efficiently without taking too much damage on that explorer, meaning it'll be free to get more treasures. But yes, he's bought some wood with that coin and then collected a tiny bit more wood and coin, of course, and then he has all the resources he needs for that house and for the hunting dogs upgrade, and that is that. But yes, another feature of this map that I quite like personally is the lack of trading posts. I mean, you can build native posts on the Navajo settlement and of course the Apache settlement, and of course the ones on the other side of the map as well, but with the lack of traverse, man, and XP and the trading site, you know, the actual trade route, I like this map when it comes across it in quick search, because it makes civilizations perhaps like Ottoman and Iroquois, which in my opinion are used a little bit too frequently, a little bit less powerful. And, you know, they like to build trading posts at the start of the game, and without those trading sites, then perhaps it's a bit more difficult for them. So, do I think that that has influenced their civilization choice? Perhaps it has, and as I just said, Ottoman and Iroquois perhaps not on the cards for these two players, and then therefore have actually selected different civilizations. The British here, for Boneng, well, do I think that that's affected his strategy or will affect the British? I actually don't think it will, because they rarely build trading posts unless they're already been upgraded. But we have seen some crazy things out of Boneng. He, of course, I can't remember the number of the game, but certainly the one on New England, we saw him build a trading post quite early on, and he had a 10 minutes Discovery Age agenda. He was not even, like, in the Discovery Age for literally 10 minutes. And if you haven't seen that game, then I would highly recommend going and checking that one out. But like any true interjection video, we're going to turn the graphics down here. And just before we do, a little bit of conflict over a 70 food treasure. Both these players are aware of it. Let's turn off the graphics and then, of course, get back to this. I have explained why I turned the graphics down in previous videos. It does take a while to explain, but there is a legitimate reason. And I'm sorry that if this bothers you, but both players here going to come in for that treasure. A little bit of conflict. I doubt either of them will want to kind of go in for it whilst they know the other is nearby, especially since all of the Guardians are still alive. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the British here, he's switched all of his settlers to wood. Let's take a look at that deck and see if perhaps it's see what we are going to see from this player. He has a more standard deck than he did perhaps in the New England game, so I don't think we'll see anything ridiculous out of him, but certainly this is Boneng we're talking about, who knows. There's no water on this map, so he can't pull any crazy boats or any fishing strategies, but certainly has some of the more desirable or more common British cards, such as 700 wood, 600 wood, and 5 settlers, which make up the bulk of, well, perhaps the strategy I would expect him to be doing. He, of course, wants to make the most of that wood for building manor houses with and to boom, and of course the settlers themselves are quite nice, now adding in an early, well, a market which will be helpful, the gang saw upgrade and placer mines and, of course, hunting dogs. And he's aging up with 200 coins, so that certainly will give him the option to do steel traps, of course, for the 20% to hunting. But whether or not he'll do that is a different question, since he's, well, the British are a little bit susceptible to early pressure, as you might expect, due to all that booming. I think it's nice, since, of course, they're investing so much into houses, which are 135 wood a pop for those settlers, then if you add the pressure in quick and fast, you can do a lot of damage. So perhaps with that coin, he'd rather be sending Minutemen. He might be able to squeeze the steel traps out of it, though, if he collects a little bit extra. But we'll see. And I think aggression is exactly what we're going to see from Garja. He's actually laying down 2 barracks right in the center of the map, which is quite a nice position for them, since it covers, well, since this map is so small, 2 barracks is in the center of the map, actually covers quite a lot of ground. And it even covers this herd. But Boneng has a house already placed down here. Quite an intuitive house placement, actually, since, of course, it is giving him line of sight to these houses here. Now, coming in for that 70 food treasure, Garja has actually been more interested in, I suppose, actually scouting Boneng's base. As you can see, wants to see what his first shipment is, what he aged up with, and the like, so he can, of course, build that strategy or orientate it around, or perhaps focus, you know what I mean, like really see what Boneng's up to and respond appropriately. But actually a wall going up for Boneng. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But yes, Garja, I think we're going to see some aggression out of him because, as I said, British are a little bit susceptible to early pressure, but France is in a very good position to do a little bit of a rush since, well, they have a really strong economy, and for the same reasons as Germany does, as I discussed in the previous game. They have that, well, they start with more than the equivalent of 6 settlers, so they actually start with more settlers, or, as I said, the equivalent in other civilizations, and they have a 3 settler shipment, which other civilizations have, but these are Carreras. They're much better than regular settlers, and they also have a 4 Carrera shipment, which he hasn't sent just yet, but certainly has the option to do so. So they have an extremely strong economy pre-colonialized as they're aging up. One of the strongest in the game. Not quite as good as Germany, as I mentioned, but there is that. And we see, of course, 10 crossbowmen, now 7 out very, very quickly, coming in. Only losing the 3 crossbowmen. Wants to be playing a little bit conservative, but certainly trying to kill some settlers off, but at the same time avoiding damage from that outpost and the town centre. And, of course, these longbowmen as well. But 10 more crossbowmen already out. Very, very fast start from Garja here to actually get a lot of damage in trying to put the pressure onto the British player and kill off perhaps some early settlers. And Boneng doesn't actually have the upgrade from the market just yet. They still have 150 hit points, so actually perhaps a little bit risky. And Boneng certainly, sorry, Garja could certainly pick off a few settlers here. Now, there's actually one going down, and Boneng calling his Minutemen to repel this. So actually, well, I see it's not, I can see why, but at the same time, Boneng no longer has access to those Minutemen, and certainly it's often better to save them where you can, since if you, of course, you can actually, and shipping 6 longbowmen here must feel very pressured indeed, but those Minutemen, let's say Garja was behind his town, or walked into a position where those crossbowmen could be trapped in between some military units, the town centre, and of course those Minutemen, then those Minutemen will certainly be able to do lots of damage, but at the moment they're just going to sit here and go back down to 1 health and not be very effective at all. But as I was saying, France can pull off a reasonable rush because they can convert all of those early game economy from of course the extra settlers they have comparative to other civilizations into military, and they can get a really hard and fast start off. Now, you could go musketeers, but I think crossbowmen is the pick here, since of course they do have a longer range and are therefore more effective at actually killing settlers, since of course you can shoot them from further away. But here, this wall actually coming into a really nice effect, and as you can see, longbowmen have a much longer range than any other land infantry unit in the game. So having the wall in between, acting as a barrier between these 2 units, means the longbowmen can get, you know, further away from the crossbowmen and shoot them without being shot at back, since of course, and this works both ways, no matter which side of the wall you're on. If these longbowmen are on the other side of the wall, they can in theory outrange the crossbowmen, and since it's a barrier stopping them from getting close, then you know, that's really to Boneng's advantage. Really nice use of the wall here. But coming in, certainly trying to kill off some settlers, denying this hunt over to Boneng, this one here where you might expect some settlers to be. Of course, but we know Garja has scouted all of the other hunts, especially, you know, this deer herd as well. So we'll perhaps be keeping a close eye on that. But this one in his base, which Boneng is certainly fortunate to have, because this one is, you know, the main source of food, and I imagine Guy will be thinking about trying to get that soon. But here we see Boneng coming out. I doubt he's going to go too far. Going to play it a little bit passively, since really he's on the defensive here, and Garja certainly has a much stronger mass and lots of military units. But another reason for Garja selecting longbow, well, these crossbowmen is, well, he can certainly add in a couple of pikemen should he need them to protect them from cavalry, since they are weak to cavalry, but, you know, musketeers, I guess, don't need that, but at the same time, the 700 wood and 600 wood, which you normally use as economically, you can actually use offensively and, you know, turn that wood into a military advantage. Here we see Boneng coming out, actually going to shoot down these settlers here and perhaps do a little bit of damage to any units that pop out of these barracks and maybe siege the barracks themselves, whilst Garja is in his base with the crossbowmen. And here, yes, Garja is stopping, I suppose, these settlers from gathering the food. And he doesn't need to worry about those Minutemen popping out, and he's not going to be able to do that much damage to buildings, and I guess that's why Boneng feels comfortable enough to leave these longbowmen over here, though I do think it's a bit greedy, since if Garja does have some cavalry, and was thinking about cavalry, then these longbowmen would be so far away from home, and there's no pikemen there to protect them, so I think it's a bit greedy, but I can see why he's doing it, and certainly it's going to be quite effective. I mean, forces Garja to come back and really not stay in his base, but Boneng's running out of hunts. He's only got this one left. This is getting a little bit far away, as you can see, now trying to bring these settlers out to herd it back, shoot them back towards his base, and actually only has this longbowman over, so this pronghorn herd over here. So, 4 settlers now on the way for Garja. He's starting to think about his economy, but at this point in the game, I think perhaps, yeah, he sent 700 wood, 600 wood to keep the pressure up, and the 8 long crossbowman shipment to really have a very large crossbowman mass and overpower the British player, and I think actually is doing reasonably well. Actually, I don't know, he could have done a bit more damage early on, I think, but he's in a good position at the moment. It looks like he looks like he's going to engage in this fight, and honestly, I don't know if it's a good idea, because, well, he looks like he has the larger mass, but under the cover of this town centre, which we can see will switch over to Boneng, has 11 settlers in it, so all you need is 10, of course. These settlers also coming into hand combat, they do 10 a pop, which is, you know, not that significant, but certainly helps, and under the cover of the town centre fire, the outpost, he's just going to lose all of these crossbowmen, and of course, this settler here, it's taken a few hit points of damage, and it has now got the settler HP upgrade, meaning it's actually just acted as a tank and sponged up some of the damage, meaning that damage was not done to a longbowman. You have to be very careful when there are settlers involved, because really you want to be focusing down the military units so that they can't kill you, reduce the opponent's damage output, and if you're careful with your settlers, you can use them to tank, as we saw there from Boneng, but it's actually repelling Garja, and now I don't think he's in such a strong spot. Switching positions here, I think, you know, he sent those 4 settlers, and we'll talk about those in a moment, but let's take a look at his economy here. 29 settlers for this player here. I think one's going to go down, so we'll call it, well, 29 here. Is he going to get another one? Not quite. Ooh. Well, anyway, 29 settlers for the 28 for the British player. We'll switch over to Garja, and we see 30. He's clearly ahead. Let's get out my calculator. And you have to remember that it's not just 30 settlers. It's 30 multiplied by 1.25. And here we have 37.5 settlers, of course, after that 4 settler shipment. And he's very, very far ahead now in terms of his economy. Done a reasonable job of raiding, actually, despite my opinion of saying he could be in a better position after killing a few more settlers. But this British player is behind on the economy despite trying to boom. Done a reasonable job of defending, but is starting to run out of hunts, and that is the big issue here. He has this one herd trying to bring it back into his base, but if Garja keeps up the pressure on that, then certainly this is going to be a very difficult game for Boneng. And this other hunt on the other side, this pronghorn herd, has actually walked very far away, so once these hunts run out, Boneng is going to be in a bad spot. So, in terms of the score, they're both fairly even, but I think, as we saw in terms of settlers, Garja is ahead, and I think in terms of resources collected throughout the course of the game, we'll check the post-game afterwards, I do think Garja is ahead as well, but now adding in cavalry, and we saw that engagement in the base here earlier, where Garja lost all of his units, and I was complaining about how that was perhaps a bad engagement, he needed cavalry, and instead of sending the 4 settlers, as we did see, perhaps he should have sent the 700 coin, like he has now done, and actually added in some hussars, since of course those would be very effective against the longbowmen, and then you could justify standing under the town centre fire, taking all of that damage there, but here we see adding in the cavalry now at this point in the game. I think it's a good idea. And in response, we see 6 musketeers. That must be a shipment. We'll switch over to Boneng. Boneng actually sent a 6 musketeer shipment to defend that. That's actually really strange in my opinion, since of course, well, those 6 musketeers could be the 5 settler shipment. That could already be here. And this 5 settlers could be a different shipment. I think sending military units, unless you really need them to help defend, is inefficient. And, well, perhaps Boneng is fully aware of the pressure and realizes that his hunts are running out and needs those military units in order order to push out and save or, you know, acquire some herds to keep the game going, since he's perfectly fine with food in his base, but once it runs out, then really there won't be anything left. Here we see Garja and Boneng engaging here, but Boneng pops out 5 Hussars out of that stable there, and is actually just sniped Garja. Garja was not prepared for 1,000 resources worth of Hussars to just pop out onto the field, and these are going to rake havoc through the crossbowmen. Fortunately, though, Garja does have some pikemen which he added in preemptively to deal with this kind of thing, but all Boneng needs to do is use his longbowmen and the musketeers here to focus down those pikemen, and then Boneng's cavalry, his Hussars, will easily be able to kill off these crossbowmen here, and as you can see, especially with these settlers sponging up some of that damage as well, Boneng has actually got the initiative here and is able to push Garja out of his base, but Garja still going to be ahead on settlers, and Boneng really doesn't have that many hunts left, as you can see, just these few here, and of course this one which he's now starting to take, but it's very, very vulnerable. So even though Boneng has actually managed to win this fight, I don't think Garja's out of this one just yet. Garja needs to keep the pressure up here as he is, and more Hussars would certainly be very useful. We'll switch over to him, we see some in production, but well, providing he can bring down all these longbowmen here, which I think he should be able to do, given the units that he has, though those settlers are a little bit of a pain in the ass, since he does really need to make sure he's shooting the right units. He can then move on to the settlers and stop these ones from working. But, really? Garja calling the game right there. He's not going to play it out any further. He's given it to Boneng. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Boneng, the winner of PK Clan Tournament number 4. And I should have explained that, actually, Boneng was on 5 wins at the beginning of this game, and that Garja was only on 1 win, and this brings Boneng up to 6, and 6 wins is all you need to win a best of 11. So here we have it, everybody. I am actually quite surprised that Garja gave up just there, because honestly, as I was saying, I think he still had a chance. The score is fairly even. And we'll check the post-game. I'll show you that, of course, with regards to settlers, villager count here, we have, well, you can see that Boneng is ahead, but that's because he's British and they produce a lot of settlers. But Garja's settlers are actually worth more, and at the very end here, he's got 36, which if we do the times 1.25 calculation, will actually be more. And with regards to all resources gathered, Garja is very far ahead. So actually, I don't know if the game was really over there, but Garja certainly had a few rough games this set, and I think on the day that he was playing these, perhaps having a bad day, and has just decided that enough is enough, and after this fight here, perhaps, I don't know, just giving it to Boneng there. But that is the end of the game there, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this series and PK Clan Tournament 4 in this video in particular, then do remember to give the video a good press on the thumbs up button. I do appreciate that. But thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.